Breslin here, presenting today's Pathway to Paradise podcast, which is sponsored by Media Nerds UK. We're delighted to welcome Declan Devine to today's show. Declan, thank you very much for coming today. How are you and your family?
All right, Jack. Everybody's keeping well, thank God. It's a difficult time, obviously, for everybody. But the one thing I will say, 95% of the time we're all right. But everybody has their dips as well, where you have down days. There's days where you can't see light at the end of the tunnel. But thankfully, most of the time we're keeping busy. We're communicating with people online. We're fortunate to have a lot of things going in our favour. But at the same time, look, we have to hold your hand up and say there is difficult days, and there's days where you feel a bit low on it. But I think it's important for everybody's mental health that we try our best to stay positive and make sure that everybody gets through it in a good frame of mind and with their health behind them, and that's the most important thing for me.
In today's show, Declan, what I was hoping to talk about was two things, mainly your playing days and your coaching days. So I'm going to start off with your playing days. You were a goalkeeper. How much do you think the role of a goalkeeper has evolved from when you started out as a goalkeeper to what it is now?
Oh, massively. It was a real. I moved to Ipswich in 1990. It was a long time ago, and obviously the big one that was brought on in 1992-93 was the back pass rule, and that was something that from a young age that I was never really accustomed to or would never really had any development on that side of it. It was very much about being able to pick the ball up and throw it out or kick it long. So that aspect of it, I think, has been huge. The back pass rule was huge. The actual goalkeeping aspect of it, you hear people saying he's a great shot stopper. Well, for me, that was always the most. That's a gimme. You've got to.
That's the bread and butter.
That's the bread and butter, and that's one of the techniques you were expected to have. But it certainly evolved over the years, and it was something I found extremely difficult, if I'm being honest with that. You had to become nearly an outfield player playing behind a back four in terms of how you dealt with the ball to your feet, being able to pick out passes, your range of passing, your distribution. That was something I found difficult, but as it evolved, it's like everything else. You become more accustomed to it, and I think the changes have been for the better of football, because when you think back to those days, it was the game was very much slowed down. If you got ahead in a game, you were able to waste so much time. So I think it has evolved for the right reasons. But goalkeeping for me, it is a specialist art, and people say that goalkeepers, how do they become coaches? Well, for me, it was about you've seen a lot of things evolve in front of you. You were able to see specifically where players were in relation to the pitch, and I've worked with people like Mark Crosley in the past, and his ability to read centre forwards movements and stuff like that. So it's an interesting one, and it's something that I'm very grateful that I had a career in the game. I had to stop at a very young age because of injuries, but at the same time that allowed me to have my coaching career. So I look back on it, and there's nothing like playing. Coaching and managing, it's fantastic, but certainly as a coach now, I would advise everybody to play as long as you possibly can.
You said there that you made your move to Ipswich when you were 16. How did you find that at that particular age and that point in your life?
Difficult. Obviously it's something that it's right for certain people to move away. It was right for me. I had an opportunity to sign for Ipswich Town, Manchester United, Leeds United, or Aston Villa. I decided to go for the lower of those clubs in terms of Ipswich at the time, who were managed by an unbelievable manager in John Lyle, ex-West Ham. And Ipswich at that time had a fantastic youth policy, and they had produced and developed a lot of talented players. And I seen that as my way of getting through the system. But unfortunately for me, I went away on an international break with Northern Ireland, to Malby. And on my 17th birthday, I done my cruise ship after a short amount of time at Ipswich. And that was pretty much very prevalent in my career moving forward. I'd done my cruise ship. I came back after 8 or 9 months, and I'd done it again. So it was very difficult, because you weren't playing games, you weren't training with the rest of the squad. The injury itself was a lot more damning, to say the least, at that time, because the medical science and the sports science behind it all wasn't as what it is today. And it was a very serious injury that ultimately led to me having to finish my career at a very young age.
How do you stay motivated in times like that whenever things maybe aren't going your way? So you've talked about having to come home, a couple of bad injuries. How did you stay positive throughout those experiences?
The first time I done my cruciate, it was very, very difficult. There's no doubt about it. But I very much had youth on my side, and I looked at it in a very positive way about being able to come back stronger, come back fitter. People were saying because you were a goalkeeper, it mightn't be too bad. But when you break it down now, there's far more twisting, turning, and getting down low and pushing off. So it actually was quite difficult for me in terms of the physical side of it to come back at a decent level. But the second time I done it, having only come back and played a few games, that was very difficult to deal with. And the manager at the time, as I spoke about, John Lyle, I was only 18 years of age at that time, and he was very positive with me. And at 19 years of age, he encouraged me to do my prelim badge, was the equivalent of a UEFA B, and that was something that has proved to be very, very beneficial for me moving forward, and the career that I've had in the coaching side and managing side of it. So to do my coaching badges at a very young age, I'm very thankful that he pushed me towards that avenue, because he did see that obviously the playing was going to be a lot more difficult for me moving forward.
Would you say that in Northern Ireland, younger players today are maybe better prepared to make the move across the water than players of your generation and younger maybe to you?
Well, I think everybody's different. I think, in my opinion, I've been very fortunate that, I've worked on the senior side as a coach and played at the senior side of football here. And, but I've also worked in youth development for a long time. I've been very fortunate to work with people like Jim Magilton, the club NI set up. And, what I have seen over the course of the last number of years is what's right for one is not necessarily right for others. I look at people that have moved away and have had fantastic careers. I also look at people that have not moved away, that the likes of a James McLean, for instance, that got League of Ireland experience under his belt and went over with a bit more value. I also see people like Paddy McCourt and David Ford that came home having not really cracked it, came back, settled into an environment here that was positive in terms of their development again at a young age, and moved back more experienced and more ready to play senior football. So in my opinion, there's a lot of things that have to go on there. Your maturity levels, your how you can deal with setbacks, obviously how you can deal with the preparation of long days when you go back to your digs or back to your landlady and landlord. So there's so many different scenarios in it that I just think that if you are going to move away at a young age now, I think, the whole package has to be right. You have to be able to deal with loneliness. You have to be able to deal with being able to have the time on your hands that you can use in a constructive manner, and the positivity of your mindset as well is also got to be key in the element of developing at a young age at a professional club.
From that, you then went on to play for Oma, Glentoran Institute and Derry City, am I right?
That's right, yeah. It was great times, the Irish League at that time when I came back. I wasn't really sure, it was a difficult time when you're released from a club at Ipswich, and that had been your dream for so long. They make that grade, and then you come back, and I was fortunate that Paul Key was a friend of mine, and he gave me an opportunity to play at Oma, and that year I won Young Player of the Year in the league, and Glentoran came up for me. Had a couple of great years at Glentoran, fantastic club, won in an Irish Cup, playing in front of huge crowds. It was a fantastic time, the crowds in the Irish League at that time were magnificent, and from that then I moved on to Derry, where really my career was starting to drop because of injuries and that. And again, I was fortunate enough to be part of a squad that won a Premier Division, that won the League of Ireland. We were beaten and played in the cup final, the FAI Cup final. We were beaten Shelburne and that. And then really when I left Derry, it was more about getting involved in the coaching. And at Institute, Paul Key, as I say, in Main City, they were heavily involved in the coaching and youth development in Derry area. And thankfully, I got involved in more coaching then, and a bit of goalkeeping coaching at Institute. And you know, as I say, it all evolved from there. But I was really at 24, 25. The career was nearly. I knew myself. There was no way of prolonging my actual playing career, and I actually threw myself very much so on the coaching then, and that's been the avenue ever since.
So you were forced into almost thinking about, next steps based on those injuries, based on those setbacks.
Absolutely, Jack. I think from early on, even in my Ipswich days, I knew that it wasn't going to last too long. You know, you were playing games, and knees were just blowing up. My knees were just blowing up and inflating after games, and I knew that I couldn't continue with it.
You say that it's more important for a goalkeeper to be a student of the game rather than other players on the pitch, based on
No,
the view on the pitch.
I think it gave me, you know, I love the game. I still do. I'm very fortunate that, you know, I've never had another job apart from football. I've been very, very fortunate. I've worked in football for 30 years since I was 16. Very, very fortunate. So for me, it was something I always wanted to go into coaching because it took my badges at such a young age. I find it easy on the training pitch to communicate and they work with players and put on sessions that I felt were beneficial. But as I said already, I think sitting behind the game, sitting off the game, sitting behind it, you see everything. You see everything. You're communicating with people. You know, you see the movements of players. You can see the formation of the opposition. So all those things kind of help me evolve as a coach. But you know, it's not until you gain the experience that you understand that. You know, it was experience is a wonderful thing, and we always strive to get more of it. And I want to continue to get more of it. But I actually feel that it was beneficial to me being able to sit off a game and watch large chunks of the game evolve.
Is there anyone in your playing career who had a big influence to then your subsequent coaching career?
I think more some of the managers I worked with were more important than the players. Obviously, you're very close to the players in terms of, you know, your match play and all the rest, and your understanding and how you get on with them and knowing their strengths and weaknesses. But I think, you know, a lot of managers I've worked with, both as a coach and as a player, I think has certainly helped me evolve as a coach. And you know, you take, as everybody will tell you take bits and pieces and positives and negatives from everybody you work with, and you know, a lot of those things have been really helpful for me.
A big word that would be used in the coaching world is philosophy. How much over your time in the game would you say that your philosophy has evolved or developed?
It definitely has changed. It changes from, obviously, philosophies are vitally important, but the most important thing is players. What players you've got at your disposal. What's the expectations of the club that you're working at? You know, obviously, youth development philosophies are much more different. They want an electricity league or a league game and get points on the board. You know, but you know, so you go. I've been through the mill in terms of I've worked at every level. I've worked at under 11s, under 12s. I've worked in Scotland in the SPL. I've worked at youth international and under 21 international level, and now I'm currently back in a job that I've done before in terms of, you know, where the real necessity is they won football matches by hook or by crook. And so, you know, your philosophy changes. Everybody, you know, you want to play the beautiful game. You want to have the best players. You want to make sure that you're playing in a very constructive and positive way. But as I say, you know, your philosophy has got to change in relation to what the job is, what your targets are, and what the end product must be, either come a Friday or come at the end of the season.
And for you and for your players, how important would goal setting be?
I think it's very important. You know, this year, for instance, at Derry, when I came into the club, they were 8th in a 10-team league. Narrowly missed out in relegation. We were able to assemble a squad. We signed 24 players last year, which is a hell of a turnaround in players. You know, but our goal setting was to try and push for European football last year. We qualified for European football. We lost the League Cup on penalties to Dundalk. This year it was to just try, because we know the difficulty in competing with Shamrock Rovers and Dundalk and the budgets that they would have. You know, so we knew this year leading on the start of the season, it was going to be very difficult. They won the title, but you know, you always set out to try and win. This year we wanted to go a step further. We wanted to finish higher than what we finished last year, so we wanted to break the top 3. We wanted to make sure that our home record was better than the previous year. We also set the target that there was 2 cups up for grabs, that we wanted to make sure that we tried to win one of those cups, having lost one of them on penalties last year. And we also have worked so hard to qualify for the Europa League that, you know, the financial benefit of qualifying for that's huge to a football club like Derry City. So when you're there, you don't want to just make up the numbers. You want to try and win a round. You want to try and get 2 rounds, and obviously try and qualify for the following year's Europa League. So we set our targets. We set goal scoring targets for the players. We also set targets for, you know, we broke the squad down in terms of the forwards last year got X amount of goals. This year, could our attacking players chip in with more than last year's attacking players? Could our midfielders possibly score more goals and create more goals than they did the previous year? And could our defenders chip in with the odd goal and set themselves a target for goals conceded and goals scored? So we've done all that in pre-season. Unfortunately, you know, 4 games and then that was taken away from us. But I think, as your question alludes to, I think setting targets is key. How you manage, whether you get to those targets or you don't get to those targets, then comes down to your management of the group.
How would you say your players and yourself are finding that in these circumstances? Is there any sort of goals or targets that you would be setting in these circumstances? Because obviously the players aren't training every week or training every day.
Well, it's key first and foremost that the health of the players is paramount in all of this. You know, their state of mind, as I started with, you know, your mental state of mind is key. The players are, like everyone else at this moment in time, in a very difficult position because nobody seems to know where we're at. But what we have talking about is, you know, we're constantly recording data. We're putting down the training sessions. I see guys is doing things to a certain level, and I see guys is not doing things to a certain level. But at the same time, when we come back, we'll be able to reevaluate those things and we'll be able to put them down and discuss. I think the key thing for us as a club is you know, we're transparent in everything we do with the players. We have a fantastic facility here at the club, and we try and treat everybody the best we possibly can. And when we do eventually come back again, it will be key that we try and get back to the level that we were at and try and be very competitive in everything that we do.
The person who would have had a big role, I'm presuming, in your career would have been Stephen Kenny.
Huge.
He's named the New Republic boss. Is there ever any phone calls happening there? You haven't got the call?
No, definitely not. Me and Stephen have been very close for a long time. We had a brilliant working relationship. You know, we had some magnificent highs in terms of, you know, European games. You know, we built a squad at Derry when Stephen first came in, and you know, we were very unfortunate not to win the treble. We won the FAI Cup in Lansdowne. We won the League Cup. We went through rounds of Europe playing PSG, beating Gothenburg home and away, beating Gretna really convincingly. But other than that, then we moved to Scotland, to Dunfermline. I was 32 years of age, which was very young to be going on the SPL. Stephen was only 34. So that was a brilliant experience for me as a young coach as well. You know, going to Parkhead, and we beat Rangers at Ibrox. We beat them in the cup at home, put them out of the Scottish Cup. Beat Hearts and Hibs. Beat Hibs in a replay at Hampden Park in the semi-final of the Scottish Cup. Went to the final at Hampden in front of 60,000 people against Celtic, and very positive as a coach Stephen was. You know, people were expecting us as little Dunfermline to sit off Celtic, and that day leading up to the game, he said, we're going to go 4-4-2, we're going to have a rattle at them, and we did. We went 4-4-2, and Gordon Strachan wasn't expecting it. Went 4-4-2, had many an opportunity to win the game, and then unfortunately for us in the 88th minute, Jimby scored what was the winning goal, and it was just magnificent experiences, you know, and you know, going to these huge European games, going to, you know, big League of Ireland games. It was just a fantastic learning experience for me to work with Stephen, and you know, I think he's a fantastic fit for the job now at this moment in time. He's really earned his corn. You know, he's a fantastic manager, fantastic person, and somebody that I class as, you know, a good friend, and somebody that I will always look back on and go, it was very, very beneficial for me at that stage in my career. They learn from and they understand the way that he worked, and for me to evolve as the coach that I am at the minute in terms of what way I would like to do things when I'm actually my own man.
Obviously, you had a stint involved with Club NI. Can you just speak to me a bit about your time there? And more importantly, could you tell me what, if there are any, or if you consider there to be any major differences between coaching at youth level to then coaching at senior level?
Well, I think the first thing for me was I had just lost my job at Derry. I was out of work. I had a couple of opportunities to stay on the senior end of it. A couple of clubs had made me an offer to stay. But the big pulling power for me at Club NI was, and I didn't really know him at the time, was, as I said earlier, Jim Magilton. Jim, was the lead figure at Club NI, which he still is. I had an opportunity to stay in the senior side of it. I'd been doing it for a long time, and I thought time was right for me to have a change. But more importantly, I felt I could learn off Jim. I felt as if a guy that had managed Ipswich Town, managed QPR, had been out in the A-League in Australia as a manager. I felt it was someone I could learn from, or someone that could help me as a coach evolve again, having worked with Stephen so long and then working with X, Y, and Z players. I just felt that Jim was the right person at that time for me to go and work with, and it proved invaluable for me because those couple of years, those 3-4 years I worked at Club NI, not just in the development phase of it, but for my own personal development, I felt that I was a better coach when I left Club NI than what I was when I went on there. And that's 100% down to Jim Magilton and working with people like Robbo and Darren Murphy, a lot of quality people within the setup that we worked with. But for me, it was a magnificent experience. I think the job that he has done there doesn't get the credit he deserves because he's transformed youth development in Northern Ireland. The best v best scenario that he's brought, even now at the current time, the guys working in the academy up there where they're getting the guys ready for the ones to go to England. I think it's magnificent what he does. The coach education department at IFA, I think, is top notch. But for me, it was extremely difficult for me at the start because you're so used to winning and winning at all costs that you had to strip it back to the individual player. How can you make the player better? How can you get them mentally ready to participate in professional football? So there's so many aspects and so many talented players that we were fortunate to work with in that period of time. That it was something I look back on with great pride and also something I look back and go, fair play to Jim and the association for putting that program in place because I think there's a lot of players that have benefited from it. I think there's a lot of players that got their eyes open to what it actually takes to become a professional footballer. We can blow smoke up young players' backsides at times and they can get a bit carried away. But ultimately, what youth development is developing the individual, making sure that technically, tactically, mentally, they're better, physically. So all those aspects, I think, was huge for me to be able to look and understand that, I have been involved in senior football for so long that let's take it right back again about how you can make the actual player better first and foremost.
You as a Derry City manager, bringing in players is something that you would always be considering. How important is having good networks in place with regards to bringing in good players?
Well, it's huge. I think, when you take over a post as a manager, I think first and foremost, the most important thing is to surround yourself with good people. I was very fortunate that I have people like Kevin Derry, Paddy McCourt, Marty McCann, Michael Haggerty, people of the highest qualification, people with the highest level of qualifications and experiences. I think that is key. And for me, I was very fortunate I was able to do that. I want to work with people that I trust. I want to work with people that I believe in. I think personally, I've been in the game long enough. They have established a lot of contacts. They have established a lot of people that I trust. They have a lot of people that I can rely on. But ultimately, as a team behind the scenes, we've worked extremely hard in the recruitment side of it. But you have to know what kind of person you want first and foremost. You have to understand what kind of player you want first and foremost. And when we came under the club, we wanted good people. We wanted good players, yes, but we wanted good people. We wanted people that want to work extremely hard. Because I think the ethos of our club is we're a club in a city of high levels of deprivation. We're a club that the people that pay to come on to watch us on a Friday night have got to work extremely hard to earn that money. The levels of employment in Derry are low. our supporters they're not blessed with natural riches. So when they pay money to come in and watch us on a Friday night, we got to make sure that we empty the tank. We are willing to give everything of us to try and satisfy the needs of our fans. So that strips that back. What do we want out of our players? Well, we want our players to work hard. We want our players to be good enough people to understand that the Derry public are paying our salaries. So on that, we set out a list of potential people that we could bring in. Thankfully, Kevin, Paddy, Murray, we all pulled in the one direction. We got great lads under the club over the last 18 months, really good people that were willing to work extremely hard on a daily basis. And I think with that, if you get that to start with, then you're in a good place. And that was one of the things that I felt looking back on last year's campaign. We really had good people. Parkhouse, O'Geary, all Owen Toole, Ali Gilchrist, Peter Cherry. We had good people around the club that wanted to go and prove themselves over again, and thankfully we were able to do that.
You maybe have a particular formation that you like playing or not. Is it more about getting players to suit the formation, or is it more about fitting the formation to suit the players?
I'm very much, look, I've been through the mill. I've went to Trabzonspor in the Europa League and thought, right, let's have a go at these here, and we'll go 4-4-2, and you're 2-0 down after 8 minutes and you're pulling your hair out and going, what am I thinking here? You know what I mean? I'm looking around and my backing team's getting further back in the dugout. They're right?
At that point.
You're 2 each at half time. You go to 2-2 at half time, and you're thinking, oh, I'm a genius here. This is great. This is working brilliant. But for me, it's about your players. It's what players you have at your disposal. It's what your opposition is. It's what your strengths as a team are. So I'd be very flexible. Over the last number of months in the league, we've tended to play a 4-2-3-1 quite a lot, but that was down to the players we have. So very flexible in the way that I see it. I would like, obviously everything's geared towards winning. As I said earlier, you've got to make sure that first and foremost you're winning games. For me, I think you've got to have a plan A, plan B, and possibly a plan C, that if you're winning the game, how do you see it out? If you're losing the game, how can you rectify it to be able to get back into the game? So there's different scenarios that I think you've got to work off, but ultimately it comes down to the players at your disposal, what suits and what way your opposition set up that you can be very much in charge of the game.
When I have a question from one of our players in the academy, his name's Jacob.
Hey Declan, how big of a part would you say a coach has on a team's overall success?
I think it's key. I think players want lead. I think players want help. I think a coach, stroke manager. I think it's very much, you can't do anything on match night apart from make the changes that I've just spoke about. But I think how you prepare during the week is key in terms of where you want to get to in your games. I think preparation that goes on. You can't just expect they turn up on a match day and say, right, let's go, let's have this. I think there's some fantastic coaches about the country. I think there's so much education out there now for people that you can strive to get better. But ultimately, it comes down to how you're prepared. There's teams in the past that haven't been the best teams in the world that have went on to be very successful. And that comes down to how the coach builds the team, what the preparation has been, what the mental strengths of your team are. So there's so many aspects. But as Jacob says, I think it's key that your coach is, first and foremost, he believes in what he's doing, and secondly, that the players believe in what he's doing, and then thirdly, and more importantly, is that everybody's pulling in the one direction to achieve the goals that's set out.
Oh, that's fantastic, Declan. Thank you very much. And that's going to be the end of today's podcast, folks. So I just want to say a big thank you to Declan for joining us today. Thanks very much.
No bother, Jack.
Everyone here at Total Football Academy would like to wish you and Derry City, whenever this season gets back underway, the best of luck moving forward.
Brilliant, Jack. Thanks.
Everyone, thank you very much for taking part in today's podcast of Pathway to Paradise. Again, I'd like to thank our sponsor for today, Media Nerds, and we'll hope to see you all again soon.